In this video, we'll be writing code to chat with the same AI models that power ChatGPT. OpenAI is the world's leading developer of artificial intelligence, and what's great about their models is that they're all available for us to use at a cost. Now, luckily, the cost of intelligence is rapidly trending down, but think about this. We now have the ability to create applications that use the same features that power ChatGPT. This means things like image generation or even creating a custom math tutor can all be done within an app that we create and pay for per request. OpenAI.com has many examples like this, so if you need some inspiration, I would definitely recommend checking out the latest news section because this is where you'll learn about the structure, the image generation models, thinking with images, and many other features that have recently been released to third-party developers like browsing agents. To get started developing your own solutions, you should go ahead and create a developer account. Let's tap the login button, and specifically, we'll go to the API platform. This is what the login page looks like. It's really important to determine the best way for you to create your account because you'll need to do this in the future when you log in again. Otherwise, you could have some issues logging in. You could register using your email, or you can use your Google, Microsoft, or Apple accounts. Again, it's really important to remember how you signed up because when you try to log in, you'll need to log in with Google, Microsoft, or Apple, or just using your email if you registered directly with just your email. Once you've logged in, this is what the developer page looks like. On this homepage, you can see some of the recent models that OpenAI has released. We can browse these models here. Let's tap View All to see a little bit more. We've talked about this page before, but now it's more relevant than ever because these models are going to determine how we power our app. The reasoning models are going to be models that excel at complex multi-step tasks. These are going to be models that can think and really review tons of research to come up with their own hypotheses. Flagship chat models are versatile, high-intelligence flagship models. These are basically jack of all trades. These models are great for writing stories or chatting or maybe even generating images. Cost-optimized models are smaller, faster models that cost less to run. Essentially, they're not as smart, but they run so much faster that they can still be useful in many different scenarios. Real-time models are capable of real-time text and audio inputs and outputs. This means if you want a model that runs like a phone agent, then this would be the model to start with because it actually will reply to audio as fast as a human would in real life. Image generation models allow us to generate and edit images given a natural language prompt. So this will allow us to create different images based on an image that we use as a reference, or we could just use text and create that image based on the text that we've input. Text-to-speech models convert text into natural sounding spoken audio. So again, this is going to be the model that gives our AI a voice in the case that we did not use the real-time model instead. Transcription models transcribe and translate audio into text. So anytime we need to record some audio and get out the transcription from that audio, GPT-4o transcribe here would be a great model to use for that. We also have tool-specific models like our search or computer use models, and we even have some embedding models which can convert text into vector representations. Lastly, we have moderation models. These are great for identifying potentially harmful content in text and images. All right, so as you can see, there are a ton of different models to choose from. Which one is the right one for you? Well, as I mentioned, our flagship chat models feature versatile, high intelligence flagship models. So let's start here. Now, we have GPT-4o. This is a fast, intelligent, flexible GPT model. This is a really great model to start with, so let's go ahead and click on GPT-4o. We have our model card here, which shows us everything we need to know about this particular model. At the top, we can see it is a high intelligence model featuring 3 dots. It's also a medium speed model, so we have 3 lightning bolts. The price is $2.50 for 1 million tokens of input and $10 for 1 million tokens of output. We'll talk more about that later, but we can also see that it takes in text and images as an input. It does not take audio, and for an output, it only produces text. So it can't produce images or audio. We would have to use a separate model to produce those outputs as well. Now, we have some examples here of prompt examples. Let's take a look at least one of these. Let's start with recipe generation. So here's a system message that we could use to turn GPT-4o into a recipe generating expert. The system message, or the programming instructions that we would provide to our model, would be: you are an expert cook generating recipes for users based on their ingredients. You will be given a list of ingredients and you will need to generate a recipe based on the ingredients, along with additional staple ingredients that are commonly found at home, like spices, butter, oil, garlic, etc. The recipe should be a list of steps along with a list of ingredients needed for each step. The recipe should be in the form of a JSON object. So here's an example of a user message. I have the following ingredients, and here's some example variables: cucumber, tomato, olives. And this is what the API call will look like, or the code that we'll be passing. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how to write code, that's okay. We'll actually be using an AI model to write our code for us. But again, if you are familiar with code, then switching it from curl to Node.js or maybe even Python could be much more useful for you, because these are going to be the programming languages that you may be more familiar with. So that's an example of how we could turn this model into a recipe generator, and you'll see that there are many other different examples, or we can experiment on our own in the playground. For pricing, we can see how much this model cost per 1 million tokens, and there's also batch API pricing, or next day processing, essentially. If you can wait up to 24 hours for the answer to come back from this AI model, many times it's about half the price. Again, we can see the modalities, endpoints, and features available to this model, and there's also different snapshots, so you can see that it's been updated over time. Additionally, there are things like rate limits. These are usually pretty high, especially depending on your tier, but it's important to know that rate limits are a thing, and so definitely review the rate limits before deploying your application. All right, we've taken a look at most of this. There's 1 or 2 more details that I did not point out, and I want to be sure that we point out everything that's extremely relevant to how this thing works. So let's talk about context windows. This particular model has a 128,000 token context window. This means that at a certain point, it may start to hallucinate or not perform as well because we've input too many tokens. Going back to our vocabulary from the beginning of our video series, tokens are essentially a way that the AI model represents words. You can imagine that a book may roughly be about 1,000 tokens. And so, and actually that might be a little over or under estimation. I would say actually a book was maybe closer to about 128,000 tokens. So let's say that a book is about 128,000 tokens. Anything beyond that book is going to start to overwhelm the AI model, and it will perform extremely poorly because we've exceeded the context window, essentially the RAM or memory of the model. It also has a max output token. So this is set to 16,000 for this particular model. And we also have a knowledge cutoff. It's always important to note the knowledge cutoff because sometimes you may need a model to be intelligent or knowledgeable in a particular topic that may not be in its knowledge base if the model was trained before a particular knowledge cutoff date. So here we have the example September 30th of 2023. This means anything that happened in 2024 or 2025 would have to be fed to this model manually in order for us to have relevant context around future content. If you wanted to compare this model with other models, you can tap the compare button and we can compare it with up to 2 other models at the same time. So we're looking at GPT-4o here. Let's take a look at GPT-4o mini. And here is GPT-4o mini. And we'll also compare this with one other model here. Maybe we will try, let's do O3 for now. We'll leave it on O3 and then we will scale down a little bit afterwards. So GPT-4o, we've talked about its intelligence. It has 3 dots. Notice how 4o mini is going to be a smaller, more affordable version of GPT-4o. Therefore, it has a little bit less intelligence, but it does have higher speed. It features the same modalities, but the pricing for input tokens is significantly lower, only 15 cents per million tokens. We also have the output tokens, which are set to $10 for 4o and 60 cents for 4o mini. Same context window, same max output, and same knowledge cutoff. So these models are extremely similar, but 4o mini is going to be the much faster, much more affordable version of 4o. In many cases, you may want to test your deployment or your model with a cheaper model before you deploy that system prompt against a more expensive model. We also have things like reasoning models, and these are not going to traditionally be something that you would use for chat. This is more, I would say, research-oriented or maybe even math-oriented, we'll say. So this is going to be the current most powerful reasoning model available to developers. Again, reasoning intelligence is different than normal intelligence. So we have a light bulb icon here, but you'll see that it has a lot of light bulbs because this is the absolutely most smartest model available from OpenAI right now. The speed, however, is going to be slower because it takes its time to think about its answer before it responds. Input tokens are much more expensive here. And so are the output tokens, coming in at $40, where we charge $10 per million tokens for output on GPT-4o and only 60 cents per 4o mini. So again, $40 for a million output tokens is wildly expensive. And that's why I would not recommend a model like O3 for a generic chat app. This is something that should only be available to the professionals in most scenarios. But there are reasoning models that are more affordable. So if we take a look at something like O4 mini, which again, I understand that the names 4o and O4 can be a little confusing. O4 mini has 4 light bulbs of intelligence and 3 thunderbolts of speed. Its input pricing for tokens is actually lower than GPT-4o, and its output price is also lower. Its context window is higher, and its knowledge cutoff is much more recent. So in some scenarios, you may want to use O4 mini, again, for much more intelligent math-oriented questions, but definitely this is going to be an affordable way to use a reasoning model instead of using a model like O3 or even O3 mini. All right, we've talked a lot about what these models can do and how much they cost. Let's actually get into using these models and seeing how they work. So let's go back to GPT-4o and let's copy that recipe system message here. So we will just copy most of this. I won't copy the part about the JSON object just because I think we can do this without it. Now we'll go ahead and try this in the playground. If you don't have the ability to use the playground yet, you'll need to set up billing. So let's take a quick look at how you can do that. If we open our settings here, you can go to the billing section and you can add credits to your balance. This is a prepaid balance, so you won't be able to use the playground unless you've already prepaid for some of your credits, but you can actually set billing limits here in the usage limits. And this way you don't exceed your usage limit unless you actually want to. So right now you can see that I have a usage limit of about $30 per month. At that point, I do get a notification, or I can completely shut down my API. That way I'm never spending more than $30 unless I really want to. So once you've set up that billing, you should be good to go and using your playground. So again, we'll just go back to general here and close our settings by going back to playground. There we go. And now you can see that we can select our model here. So we have many different models that are available to us, but we'll go ahead and just use GPT-4o. And here in our system message, we can type in our system message. So this is essentially how the model should behave, the tone, the tools it's allowed to use, and the response style. We'll go ahead and paste in that system prompt for our recipe generator. And now on the right side here, let's chat with this model. So we'll start by just saying, "Hi there, can you hear me?" We'll tap send. "Yes, I can. How can I assist you today?" All right, so it looks like this thing is working. I have some ingredients. Can you help me make a recipe? I have eggs, bacon, potatoes, and let's say one other thing like maybe an English muffin. Perfect. All right, so we have some ingredients here. We'll also add in some vegetables because why not? So maybe, and I also have some salad mix. Perfect. Let's tap send. And right away, it's breaking down everything that we need into the recipe that we could possibly create from that. So let's take a look. Let's make a breakfast egg and bacon English muffin sandwich with a side salad. Here's the recipe: 4 large eggs, 4 slices of bacon, 2 English muffins, 1 potato, and butter or oil. So we have a really great looking recipe here. It's all broken down for us, but look at that. We've created a model that specializes in cooking and creating recipes just for us. Now, earlier, we did create a ChatGPT model that was capable of helping our students in different ways. So something that we've created in ChatGPT can now actually be replicated here in our API. Let's try that out. So we'll open our tab, we'll go back to chatgpt.com, and let's open that chat. Let's see here. And again, I have a few different examples, but I believe we're talking about the GPT model that we created. So we'll go to My GPTs, and here it is, the assignment guide GPT. So let's edit this GPT, and here in that configure tab, we can copy the system instructions that ChatGPT created to create our assistant guide GPT. So going back to our playground here, we'll replace our system message with the one that we got from ChatGPT. It's much longer. And on the right side here, we can start a new chat by tapping the new chat button. All right, so let's tap the save button. And we actually don't need to save that. We can save it and basically reuse that prompt later. But for this example, we won't need to save this. So let's go ahead and just try this. We'll say, hey, and that's it. how can I assist you with your course today? So notice how this version of the assistant instantly is talking about helping us with our courses, whereas the previous example was helping us with our recipes. So if we wanted to maybe continue this chat, we could say, what do I need to do for the week 4 assignment? And notice how right away it's telling us that we don't have any details from the syllabus about the week 4 assignment. And that's because you'll notice that our system message here, while it is pretty guided and helpful, it doesn't really give any context to the actual class that we're talking about. So if we wanted to make a GPT that was custom and specific to our class, we could actually give it that syllabus data here. So let's go back to ChatGPT and let's open that Washington National syllabus here, and maybe we'll have to go back into the chat where we created that document. Here we go. And so we'll just copy all of this content. There we go. And as an example, we're just going to paste this here. So we'll just say, here's the syllabus. Perfect. Because again, all of this data is just text. Therefore, just giving it as the system message will allow our AI model to perform extremely well now that it has the context as to which class it needs to be referring to. So let's continue this conversation. We'll say, how about now? Look at that. In week 4, you're assigned a site analysis report. It breaks down everything we need to do to complete that assignment. This is great. So this is now something that an individual professor could actually deploy for their students. And this app would be, again, a custom app. This isn't just ChatGPT anymore. This is now something that we can put inside of our own app. Now you may be wondering, how would we put this in our own app? How do I even start working on that process? Let's take a look at how we would do that. On the top right corner here, we have the code button, and this will give us the code to create this exact AI model using code. So you'll notice here, if we scroll up to the top, that we're looking at the Python version. We could look at the curl version, the node.js, or the JSON version. And even better, if we copy this code, we can take it back to a tool like ChatGPT, and we can ask it to write API code for us. So we can say, based on this Python code, could you please create some code to call the OpenAI API? All right, so we'll give it the code that we have. And now it's going to write a more complete solution for us that allows us to communicate with our AI model using Python code. Now, this is something you'll need to run in your IDE, but let's just take a step back here for a second. We just used an AI model to write code to communicate with an AI model. What's really amazing about this is we can translate this code to any coding language we want. So at the bottom here, we could say something like, please convert this to a Swift UI view. Swift UI is Apple's programming language for iPhones and other devices. And so by translating this to Swift UI, we can quickly use this code on an iPhone now instead of just using it here in our desktop.